Hello everyone, welcome back to Wapplewood. It's a nice October evening. I'm enjoying a nice tall drink. Bears, our special guest, is currently at work, and PapaLlama is having a nice glass of Chardonnay, and it's a good evening so far. Bears, you mentioned
Agr-
earlier something about an oil pan nut being rusty when it shouldn't be.
Okay, yeah. Well, a lot of things to cover here about this oil pan. So the reason we're down here, anyways, in the first place, is this is a Peterbilt MX-11, and I think it's like a 2016. I know it's pre-2019 because they don't have the disc brakes. It's got drums, but they made these oil pans out of hard plastic rather than metal. So sometimes you'll see a leak up where the gasket is, and you'll think, okay, well, the gasket's leaking, we'll replace that. But sometimes when you start taking them bolts out, these bolts have these little inserts that are supposed to keep the bolts in the pan, and so they don't drop out, and it's just easier to install and uninstall. But if that insert comes out with it, and it's not supposed to, it's a metal insert inside a plastic oil pan, go figure. But if it comes out, then it's just going to leak when you put it back up there. It's not a gasket issue, it's now an issue of the inserts and things just not sealing properly. So the other day when I was taking these bolts down, some of the inserts were coming out with them. And so I put it back up together, and they weren't leaking yet, but they were going to if I put it back up there. And so I had to order the oil pan to go along with the oil pan gasket. And so now we got the oil pan today, and that's my project. It's one of them tonight. And so I was taking out this oil pan, and I was taking one of those bolts out, and I noticed it was you could get most of them just by hand once you loosen them because they're only supposed to be torqued to like 22 foot-pounds. But this one, it was a little tougher. And I was looking at it and it was red, and I'm like, that's strange. It got rusty up there. That's a coworker over there. Hi, Brian. If you just cab it down and then cab it back over, you're gonna have a hard time cabbing it over, and it'll start leaking. There's like two spots where it crosses over the front of the engine. Try cabbing it back down. Here, I'll walk over there.
Well, I'm just wondering what
Well,
kind of psychopath would make a plastic oil pan. Like, what are you
that
gonna
is
do
pretty
if
bad.
that breaks? Are you gonna just like JB weld it back up? What
Mm,
happens if it gets cold?
it does get cracked sometimes, but
What's that glue I always use? It was like It's called like E3000 or something like that.
I'm
So,
I'm talking about the front of the engine there, B.
Yeah, I know. I told myself here, but I don't know. They keep saying it's not.
I
Well,
suppose
Okay,
we'll just
well,
cut these things out.
like I saw it from the passenger side leaking. I'm sorry, guys. I'm talking to some people. You can
You're all
see
good,
what's
man.
leaking right here. But if you come to this side of the truck, you can see stuff leaking down from right there.
right, right.
And then inside that loom is going to be your hoses.
Like that,
Yeah, all that big loom there with all the hoses and stuff in it.
right.
Yeah, that's where your hoses are going to be. And it didn't leak until I was trying to cab the truck back down. Yeah. There's your hoses. Follow them. They go back down that way. And one of them goes there, and the other one falls down, and then through there with that. See, there's your cylinder, and those lines go through there from back there. So, like right here, and they go into that loom, and then as it crosses the front of the engine there. Yeah. If B can't figure it out, but yeah. Sorry for the interruption there, folks. Hope that wasn't too awkward.
Nah, it's totally fine. Actually, it gave Jerma and I some time to secretly, not so secretly, you can see it, correspond. I was gonna say we're talking about all this stuff. Let's assume that our some of our listeners don't know what you do. Why don't you tell us what you do?
Oh, I fix garbage trucks for a living. I'm in fleet maintenance, if you will.
Fleet
So
maintenance.
yeah, because there's a fleet of garbage trucks, and the name of the game is to keep them running. Then go out and pick up your trash, and we have a smooth business that way.
It's very
So
important, by the way. I almost left my. I live out in the sticks in Tennessee, and I almost left my current garbage truck company because for 2 weeks they didn't pick up trash because they didn't have enough mechanics to repair their trucks in a timely manner, and they
oh,
their trucks all like broke at once, evidently.
The
Yeah, that
So
could be
I
interesting.
understand. Yeah, that was wild. I was like, guys, what do I do about my trash? Like, I literally resorted to lighting it on fire the old school way, which everybody
Oh
we all
no.
love doing that in the area.
that's just something that's a bit beyond me. I mean, the you're saying you had to contract out personally your garbage truck?
Yes, and
Oh
that's what he
man,
works for a private entity, and it's when you live out in the country, there's pros and cons to it. The private entities are a little more friendly per se, like they work with you. They cost less than the government contracted ones, and generally speaking, I have the cheap service. He works for a better company than we have his company in our area. I just haven't hired them. That's the funny thing, because they're expensive. If you hire the expensive company, they're usually very good.
yeah.
Oh,
And I
those little metal pieces aren't important. That's great.
I've worked very, and I mean very rurally, and there, what you'd the shop, I think myself and another family was living there, and there was a total of maybe about 10-ish people on site during the workday, and every week we'd only produce about like a single garbage bag of garbage. But the boss was a very clever guy, and he basically streamlined the shop so that everything that was burnable went into the boiler, and everything
Yeah,
that wasn't. And when I say burnable, I mean not. I don't mean like plastic burnable. I mean like burnable in a way that's not going to kill you.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
healthy, quote unquote. And then everything else would have to be put on a trailer and sent to the local dump. And
We
you'd have
we
to
could
send.
take it to the local dump, but like that would be a pain in the butt. So it's actually easier to just burn it or to hire a company. The local
Mm,
dump's cheaper, except for the fact that it's 30 minutes away from me.
Oh yeah,
mm,
that's tough.
Yeah. So
the
so tell us you work on garbage trucks. Tell us how you got into that.
Um, dumb look, I guess. I would say, pray to Saint Joseph. I was delivering pizzas before this. I didn't know anything about garbage trucks. Maybe knew a little bit about repairing my own vehicle because I would do that with my dad, but otherwise not so much. And I just kind of would like go to church Wednesday morning. Sometimes I just random mornings, but I remember Wednesdays and Tuesdays specifically because they would be either doing Tuesdays is devotion to Mary and Wednesdays are devotion to Saint Joseph. And it was like a couple months after doing that. I was looking for a new job because you got to have a career. You can't just be delivering pizzas your whole life. It's not going to get you nowhere, really. I'm not saying you couldn't, but I didn't see it happening. So I saw on my Snapchat my friend from high school was goofing around in a garbage truck shop, and I was like, I think I could do that. And so I asked him, I said, hey, you think I can get a job there? And he's like, yeah, we're hiring, and my dad is a shop manager. So, I'll put a good word in for you. And I'm like, cool. So this is like December of 2020. I applied. It was like November, I think. It took like a month or something for all the processing to go through. But I ended up getting a job just because I told him, I'll work hard. I'll learn anything you want to teach me. I knew the guy who was working there from high school, and I was teaching him in physics. So if he knows how to do this stuff, I could figure it out. And, it just kind of went from there. I started out as a just what they call an entryway or like learning entryman, or you could say apprentice, I guess. I don't know. And at the time, they were given free toolboxes and tool sets, and if you were there for a year, you got to keep it. So that was a really nice incentive to stay working with them. And I loved the job. Working in the morning with them when I was doing training, learning PM. So that's PM is short for preventative maintenance, and that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
big thing about what we do here, and making sure that things are running and there's nothing wrong with them. That's how you catch these leaks and stuff. Is you're on a PM and you notice it. But
Well, yeah, because it's a lot easier to repair it when you notice the leak now than when the
then when it
machine
blows out
has
all my
leaked
record,
all
yeah.
the yeah, yeah, when the engine's done because you leaked all the oil out. Yeah. I feel that on so many levels because I'm a systems administrator and 75% of for a good sysadmin, like most of your job is going to be preventative maintenance and making sure that everything's like working as it should. Otherwise, things blow up. And when things blow
mm,
up, you end up spending a lot more time to fix them.
Now, there's something interesting. Is I dropped this oil pan, and I'm thinking it's going to be pretty straightforward. The oil pan comes down, you take out the gasket, maybe clean up the surface where the gasket's going, and then you put the new one up. Well, I take the oil pan down, and inside are these three little metal pieces that I have no idea where they might go. And I'm thinking, I'm looking up there. There's nothing too obvious. They got threads on the inside, and they got what?
I guess you can't get away with what we like to joke about in IT, which is if you take like a computer or a server apart or networking equipment and you put it back together, you always have one extra screw that you don't know where it came from, but it definitely was inside the machine, the device. But that's
Yeah.
okay. It's gonna be fine. I don't know if it works like that for what you do. You might want to figure that out.
In this case, it might. I don't know how much engine work's been done on this, and if these things just ended up falling down. I'm looking to make sure there isn't anything like obvious, like this was supposed to hold a piston head together, but it doesn't look like that. It looks like it would belong closer to a valve, but everything in that situation, the fuel or the oil pump, assuming that's what this is, that looks all put together. So it was running fine before, and I don't imagine those things came down once I did all this. So I'm gonna hold off on it. I'll let my coworker know. Or if anything happens, the truck won't be running, but we'll see what happens. There's a couple spare parts. They were at the bottom, which makes me wonder if it was just something in manufacturing that fell down and we just never noticed because it's the first time we replaced the oil pan.
It's been there the whole time.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Okay.
There's nothing like where it could have obviously came from. I'm looking up there right now, and there's nothing.
I actually recently replaced the battery in my MacBook. I use an old, like 2015 something MacBook Pro as my laptop. And the issue was that the battery was expanding, it was all big and puffy, and for obvious reasons, that's bad. So I was like, okay, I gotta replace this. And I did. And then and once I'd put the last screw in, I looked at the little plate that I'd put all my screws on, and I was like, oh, there's a screw left over. I wonder what that's from. And then,
spare part.
I don't know where that screw's gone. I think I may have put it in a baggie and put it somewhere sensible. But, the computer runs fine. The battery hasn't exploded yet. It's not on fire, so I'm gonna trust that everything's working. But I don't know where that screw came from, and it's like, PapaLlama was not kidding about these screws. I mean, do you think there's just some folks, some bored kid in China making these who just like drop the spare screw in to mess with the
Dude, for real,
customers?
it's no joke. It's literally what happens every time.
Well,
There's probably some kid in China whose entire job is to hide a screw in your thing.
I mean, actually, that would be like a weapons grade method, like psychological warfare, because the authorized repairmen, they don't care about the screw because they know they're doing their job properly. The guy who doesn't have the inside knowledge about the screw, they're going to freak out and they're not going to want to do that again.
That's
I
true.
tell you what, there is times, and it's happened more than once where you have a spare part after putting something together, and you look over your work and you say, well, there really isn't anywhere this could have gone, and you start the truck up and everything runs fine. You let it go, and you do just have a spare part. It happened recently. I had a what do you call it? An oil cooler. That's a pretty important part, and it needed to seal, and that was you need all your bolts in there to seal it, and I went over that 2 times before I found that extra screw because I was making sure I had everything lined up and it was going to seal because the problem was that the gasket had worn down and oil was getting in the coolant on this truck. So I was, on top of my game. I'm done. I'm looking at this screw and I'm looking at it. I'm like, this is definitely a screw that would have gone to seal the oil cooler. And I had already put, in this oil cooler, it sat behind the alternator and the AC compressor. And I had put all the brackets and all that back up. And I'm like, I checked it. There's no reason why this screw should be here with this bolt doing. And I just let it run. I checked it and it's not leaking. I don't know where that was supposed to go, but not on that truck, I guess. I don't know. Because there wasn't any more spots to put one.
That's funny.
Man. Oh, here's something. I think you as a garbage truck repairman would have very strong thoughts on this. What do you think about the right to repair stuff? Because, like, it's your line of work, obviously, but
What is right to repair?
I was gonna
So-
say,
Heard
I
of
was
that.
gonna ask if they. I was actually before we get you into that, I was gonna say I'd be surprised if at an industrial level like what Bears does, if they actually had issues with that, because that's a powerful enough apparatus that they would just
Yeah.
not buy your product
I mean,
anymore.
they're the corporate. Bears
Yeah,
I think,
it's
gets
like
dodged it.
15. It's at AFTRPWR.
Who?
Oh, hold on one second. I got my coworker here.
Up,
Oh.
up. Oh,
I was
good.
mute
He's
myself.
got to do work. But yeah, so Jerma, you know, like the right to repair stuff, it
It's personal, yeah,
does
I know.
not, it hasn't
no, I know.
affected. No, I wasn't gonna say him. I was gonna say even me. Like at my job, like servers, networking equipment, high end computing, the right to repair does not exist there. It's very strictly, outside of farming, it is very strictly a consumer level problem, which is interesting.
Well, the reason I'm wondering about this is because if you talk to Rusty, he'll talk your ear off about how right to repair is a bit of a trouble with cars because there's the new
Yeah,
electronic systems and yada yada.
but it's still consumer electronics or a
Yeah,
consumer level
consumer
stuff.
product. I mean,
Yeah.
some agencies and large corporations do use what they call
I know John Deere
office.
is terrible about it in
Yeah,
farming, so
but like consumer, not consumer. Like for example, the Canadian military operates a bunch what they call off the shelf. They have a special acronym for it because of course they do. They operate a bunch of their own special things, and it's like, and you'd think that there would be the same concerns there. I'm not sure if there is, or if they're like, oh, we're big enough, we don't care about it if we have to send it to the special guy. Because I think that's really kind of the ultimate thing about right to repair is that once you have enough money, the corporation's gonna play nice with you, but it's the little guy who,
yeah.
when you've never had a dollar, nickels look like quarters.
Yeah, we've seen this a lot in our field because like people will think about it, they'll try it, and then they'll just get blown up over it, and they'll walk it back. They just tried this. VMware just got bought out by who was it? They got bought out by somebody big. I wish I could remember the name now. But anyways, they immediately like walked back a bunch of the licensing rights and stuff, and like almost immediately everybody put in place plans to jettison VMware as which was a pretty prominent utility in the virtualization space.
Ouch.
Yeah, I was like, see ya.
This is one of the things where the venture capital is like so incredibly bad for corporations, and it's one of the things that just is like totally indefensible.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
They're in the bottom of Japan.
Because they're just taking these big things. They're making money for the sake of making money. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
but that
only
doesn't mean
making
it's
money
good long
because
term. It's such a short-sighted
Might have been
investment.
part of manufacturing because this truck's been running just fine. So yeah. I'm leveraging it. That's all.
they're not making money because they're clever. They're not making money because they're doing anything good. They're making money because they already had money, and that, my good friend, is usury.
That's funny that you bring that up because I've thought for a long time that there's a point at which these companies don't actually have to make money with their products. They just make money off whatever investments and stuff they have on the back end. Because otherwise, there are tons of companies I know about that are, in the media all the time. Like Disney. Disney keeps bombing movies and everything else, and their parks are pretty expensive, and they're not posting great numbers. Like, well, then how are they staying profitable? Because they already have money. How do they stay solvent? Because they have money.
That's one of the things, like, kind of crazy how just unfathomably rich some groups and corporations are. I mean, do you know about how much money, this is a big famous one. Do you know how much money Harvard has in its endowment fund?
I've heard it's wild. I don't know the number, but I've heard it's like off the charts, somewhere in the, is it billions? I mean, it's got a lot.
They have $40 billion to their name.
That's wild.
Which is like, Like, okay, $40 billion, that's a lot for a single university.
They're richer than most nations.
Not most nations. They're richer than like 40, 50 nations. That's like 25%. And also, when you look at all the charts, when you say, oh yeah, sure, 25% of nations, the bottom 25% of nations are tiny. Like, they're like, New York, as a nation, places like 50th percent, like right in the middle, if not higher. California as a nation, I think, is like top 20.
Yep.
It's one of those
California.
things where there's this is what's it called? There's a specific word for this. It's ordinal data. It's not nominative data. It's ordinal. That means it's in order. And that doesn't actually tell you anything other than what is above and below.
Well,
Which is
I believe
the clever thing to use, you know.
it is. Well, Bears, I believe Bears has returned. He's no longer on mute, so you can bring him back into the discussion.
Right now we're getting an oil pan up because the old one's down and this new one's going up. So we're trying to get any one bolt started. Looks like I got this corner one in there. Hi.
Yeah, but if you do that kind of work,
Well,
tell
yeah, I
him,
mean,
tell him
it
it's
just
your
pays off as you go
Catholic
along.
friends across the country and one in Canada. My Catholic friend in Canada. Like your girlfriend who lives in Canada. My girlfriend who lives in Canada. Who definitely exists.
Yeah, she just goes to a different school. You guys don't know her.
I'm not gonna lie, by the way, sometimes I feel like that in Dust Chat. Like, you know. You would know.
It's a shame we can't talk about what goes on in there because there's all sorts of funny moments from there.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, man.
Recently.
How snails was in there? That was funny.
Well, it'd be a bit awful if we had Bears on and only ever talked to him about his work, because he's a man more than work. I think.
That is true.
We just don't normally have guys on when they're working.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I mean, if you want to ask me something else about my life, I'm totally open to it.
Well, I hear you come from a absolutely massive family. So is that accurate?
Yeah, I got like 11 siblings. My youngest one, she passed away in 2020. Rest in peace. But other than that, yeah, I've got 10 other siblings. I've got one little sister, and then 6 older brothers and 3 other older sisters. So I'm number 10 out of the whole lineup.
Nice. And I'm asking questions I know the answer to because we actually had the fortune to meet in real life.
Brother.
Yeah, sometimes I have to ask questions on behalf of the people who are who are watching the show or listening to it rather than just the things I know. That's like earlier we were talking about you working under the truck, and I'm like, we're gonna have like a small portion of our people who are watching this and are like, hey, what are they talking about? Oh yeah, he works on those. Yeah, meeting you was really cool. You have a glorious beard. It's pretty great. So
oh yeah, it's only gotten longer.
Nice. We all really enjoyed that too. Stopping at that barbecue joint. That was super fun. Those were the best Those were the best baked I had on the whole trip.
Now that you visited there, the next time you roll by, you got to come to the other barbecue joint. And I'm not gonna say they're gonna have better ribs. They maybe have better baked beans, but everything else on their menu I think is better than the first barbecue place. They're just that good.
Okay. See, that's the place that we went was like I know it was like, Pappy's is like it is the
that's
tourist.
iconic.
Like you go there, that's where you go. Yeah, you go there because they've won all the awards. Everybody knows about them. The only thing that they made really good food, but the only thing that disappointed me slightly was that they served baby back ribs, which is really common in the nearby city where I reside. And so I was really shocked when they served baby backs because like in St. Louis it's supposed to be a spare rib, and I was like, huh? I was like, what's happening here? So, and I love spare ribs.
I'm not sure why they do it, but it is what they do.
Yeah, it is. I wonder, so where you live, are spare ribs more expensive than baby backs, or are baby backs more expensive than spare ribs? Like, which one's more? Because over here, it's always baby backs. Like, I can get spare ribs for so cheap out here. I wonder if it's different where you are because of spare ribs are like the thing. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Did you lose me? Did I lose him?
I'm just trying to listen into this, but it's all Greek to me.
Well, Jerma, while Bears has disappeared on us, I will teach you about the difference. So the
No.
ribs, there are two
You guys didn't lose
sections.
me.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, he's just being quiet. He's
Yeah, no,
focused.
my phone decided to do the thing where it calls up a phone. But wherever I go shop, I only ever see spare ribs for sale. I don't really see the baby backs, or I'm just not paying enough attention. But I'm
Okay.
pretty sure it's the same situation because when you have extra cutting going on, then the butchers charge more, unless it's
Yeah,
like one
yeah.
thing's on sale rather than the other. But I normally shop at a wholesaler, so of course the spare ribs are going to be cheaper.
That makes sense. Yeah, yeah. I get the spare ribs. So for Jerma, for your knowledge here in barbecue,
Mhm.
the spare ribs are further down on the pig. They're attached to the pork belly. The belly comes off that, and so they're a fattier cut of rib.
Alright.
Closer to the spinal cord is where you get your baby back ribs because the loin, which is the back loin, is usually attached to baby backs, and so the baby part of it is, a colloquial term. They just call them back loins because they're typically smaller. Baby backs are smaller than spare ribs and they're leaner. But for some reason, they're more coveted in this area. I still haven't figured out quite why. I think they are aesthetically more pleasing unless you cut them into the St. Louis rectangular shape. Unless you cut the spare ribs into the rectangular shape. So, anyways, that's my whole thing. Spare ribs don't get enough love in this baby back world of mine.
Mm.
Baby back will.
Yeah, they really don't, man. I don't know how else to put it. Like everybody here wants baby backs. It's great for me though, because I go like baby backs are on sale at any given grocery store like all the time. So I can just go there and pick up baby backs and call it a day. And like I had to ask my for a special thing I did a few months back. I had to ask my butcher in the nearby town where Snails lives. I had to ask the butcher to order some spare ribs, and he was like, I almost never order these because nobody wants them. And I was like, why?
Interesting.
So call in advance.
I'm not doing that wrong. Leave me alone, Brian.
So I'm actually having a barbecue on Saturday. I've got some families, some young adult families from church coming over. The wives are actually all going to get their nails done and do something wifey. And the husbands, we're all coming over to my place and I'm gonna make some pulled pork and make some wings.
Oh, that sounds fun. It's gonna be hmm, gonna be what's it called? Thanksgiving next Monday up here.
Oh, I was like, what?
Yeah,
That's right, Canada.
and it's one of the funny thing. It's earlier because I'm not sure why, but it's earlier. And what this means is for us, we don't have any like November celebrations except for watching the American election.
Okay. Watching. Oh my goodness, that's a terrible celebration. Or amazing, depending on your opinion, but
Well, the depending on how cynical you are, it's always fun.
yes, yes, that probably comes down to personality types.
Yeah,
So what's the meal for Canadian Thanksgiving? Is it like turkey or is it something else?
yeah. I remember when we had snails on, she was just horrified by the idea that she had no clue what on earth I was talking about because I personally don't like turkey. It's like
Me neither.
uh,
It's okay.
I had a tofurkey once, and it was actually remarkably good, which I know is going to be anathema to like half the server, but I'll stand by it. Normally it's just
Oh, wait, repeat that. You said you like
Irma did
for
not just admit to liking tofurkey.
that's horrible. That's the worst.
it was genuinely good. I didn't quite understand what it was, and I was like, oh, this is tasty. I'm not going to say it
No.
was good turkey, but I'm not going to say good turkey exists.
That's,
But
I'll tell you what it is then. It's most people probably are eating tofurkey thinking they're eating bacon and they're like, this is wrong. This is all wrong.
I but
Oh yeah. My coworker wanted me to mention something. They were having a 20 ribeye sale for $40. 20 ribeyes for $40. And you
Holy
think this is unbelievable, right? How are you going to get 20 ribeyes for $40? There's something going on. Well, he decided to get in line, and he starts looking it up. It's lab grown meat.
Oh
He's like,
no,
no, no, no, no.
no.
I
That's a
mean,
no, no.
actually,
Him and like other people just started leaving the line. They're like, we're not eating that. I made a joke. It was like, that's how they get it to be 20 for 40 is you eat it and then you start growing extra limbs and then they have you cut it off and they use that for the future ribeye steaks.
I was
That sounds
at an
horrible.
agro talk last week, and came up one, and they were talking about making sure that Canadian agriculture can adapt for the next 100 or so years, and like it's one of the things where a lot of the land is genuinely in danger because, uh, like for one example, they would farm on marsh and they would drain the marsh. And if you know anything about marshland, you understand immediately why that's bad, but I know you two don't. So I'll explain.
I can kind of imagine why it might be. You know, if a
Basically,
marshland is naturally formed, that's like a place where the water needs to be. If you're draining it, then who knows where it's going to end up.
well, I
But
mean,
go
it's
ahead and give
very,
us your explanation, Jerma.
in this case, it's very clear where it's going to end up because you're pushing it into the lake, and that's like right over there. The issue is that when you drain a marshland, this ground basically starts evaporating. And like
Oh,
within 200, 300 years, you can go from a meter of soil to none, to bare stone, which is
Huh.
very, very bad if that's where you're growing your food. But I digress. That's not why I brought it. They were talking about one of an opinion put forward by a prominent, I think it's a guy with French ecological journalist, and the guy was saying, well, farming cannot ever be environmentally friendly enough to justify the amount of damage it does. The amount of food you get from it versus the environmental impact cannot ever be justified. So, we should stop farming. We should switch over to purely lab-grown, fermented, yada yada. And it was a really
what?
odd thing.
These people make me so angry.
Yeah, no,
Like the
basically,
labs don't pollute themselves. Like, come on now.
well, it's different. There's some argument to be made there. I'm not going to defend it though. And one of the panelists was like, yeah, I mean, but that's like almost genocidal destruction of culture. And then
Yes,
another panelist,
literally, we're gonna commit suicide.
yeah, and then another panelist was like, well, yeah, but consider, I mean, you already eat mass-produced food. Like, you eat food from a restaurant. You eat food from McDonald's. That's mass-produced. How is this any different?
Not if you're vintage.
Yeah.
Actually, I would contest that in and by saying that every single time I have to like venture into a center aisle, I'm really confused. If it's not the baking aisle that counts as a center aisle, I'm always really confused by them all.
I'm not entirely sure what you're talking about with this center aisle. Like,
You're talking about
So
going to
in
a grocery
America,
store, so
yeah,
like
if you go to a grocery store, if you hang out on the periph, it's all fresh food. Yeah, you can tell them, Bears. You can do this.
yeah, so like if you go to a grocery store, all your healthy food is on the perimeter of the store. Like if I go to my grocery store, you
Yeah.
walk in, you're in the fresh garden section. And on the other end of that is like the deli. You've got your like more sometimes some processed meats, but you can get your fresh cuts there. And
Yeah,
then
like
along
right
the
behind,
back wall,
usually.
you've got pork, beef, chicken, you name it. And the
So,
bakery is kind of like in the corner there with it. And
yep.
at the end of their end, you've got your dairy, your eggs, all that fresh stuff. So there's
yep,
all of your fresh foods that are healthy and good for you. But if you venture in the center aisle, potato chips,
Yep.
Little Debbie's, soda, beer, you name it, all the weird stuff that. But there's a charcoal in there for your grilling, you know, grilling accessories and stuff. PapaLlama probably dips into, but if he mistakenly goes down one aisle, he's gonna know what kind of food's in there. If you have like a soup aisle, that might be like the best option.
Sort
But
of, but
like,
like
yeah,
even the soups
there's a
are
lot of
highly processed. Like they're like chicken, and I'm like, what kind of little chicken cubes have you given me? I made chicken noodle soup today with chicken breast, and it was like real chicken, and you had to pull it apart. I never know what the heck the chicken is inside, like the Progresso or Campbell's
oh yeah,
can of
the
soup, but
Campbell's. Yeah, what is that?
I have no
It's
clue
like
what that
when I go
is.
to a Chinese restaurant and you order anything with pork, you get a little pork cube,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't taste like pork. I don't get what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
People love it. I'm like, I don't.
So
There's-
Germa, if you were to, so there's a whole argument, by the way, on inflation, which we won't get into, but there's a whole argument on inflation that if you were to shop on the outer perimeter of any grocery store in all of North America, you'd have to do more, like you have to cook your food, but the price hasn't gone up that much. But it's when you venture into the center aisles with your cookies and your pre-made meals that somehow like can subsist at room temperature without being pickled, that your prices all begin to skyrocket. And it's interesting the differences there. But the thing is that actually most people in like the United States here, they shop in the center aisles. Like it is the center aisle turnover is much higher than at perimeter. But it's just it's an interesting discussion. So
I
like
was
when you're
gonna
talking about processed
say,
foods, I was saying I don't go into the center aisles that often, and when I do, I'm confused. Like I'm genuinely get overwhelmed by the amount of chips in the chip aisle. Who needs that many variety of the same chip and different brands? I'm
yeah,
like,
that's
man,
something. When I shop in Canada versus when I shop in America are two totally different experiences.
really, really.
Like, yeah, like straight up, so I would, in Canada, I would go to the grocery store, yeah, and I would go and I'd go to the deli counter, I'd buy a bit of meat, buy a bit of cheese, and I would go to I'd go to the cheese section, and I would look through the selection of cheddars, and I would buy the cheddar I want. In
Okay.
America, I go to the cheddar section, and like this is, mind you, at an upscale grocery store in the Bay Area. So like this should be better than most American grocery stores when it comes to more upscale selections of certain things like cheese, you know. And then looking there, I'm like, oh, this is why Elijah was acting all crazy when I was talking about 15-year-old cheese. Because the oldest cheese there was 1,000 days old, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not even 3 years, and you're telling me that's your oldest cheese, and even funnier, that was Canadian cheese. Their oldest cheese was Canadian cheese, and it was only 3 years old. The rest of the cheese was like 15 days, 30 days, 60 days, and I'm like, where's your 15-year? Where's your Welsh cheddar? What's going on here? And
But you can go buy your craft American cheese like product.
and like I was trying to,
Yeah.
and I ended up not buying any cheddar. I mean, and then I got provolone, and I got I think it was salami. I can't quite remember. And I got bread, and I was like, and I made a sandwich later, and I'm like, wow, why is my sandwich sweet? Why is it sweet? Why is it sweet?
The bread is sweet. The bread has sugar in it.
Oh no, it
Bread is
wasn't just the
fake.
bread. It was the meat was sweet too. That was the scary part.
Oh, they sweeten the meat. Oh,
Yeah.
honey, like honey ham. Honey ham is like that.
No, no, no.
Oh, dude, I
It
can't do something sandwiches, man. I do not like that sweet honey ham flavor on my sandwich. I'm just
No,
gonna say that real quick.
no, I'm with you, man. I can't do that. Actually, one of my like big
Like,
dreams is to once the wife's not working and she's back at home, I want to get a deli slicer, and because I like smoking. I can smoke. I've done smoking and curing and stuff, and I want to smoke and cure my own meats and then freeze them and then slice them up. Like I don't want to have to buy that stuff from the grocery store anymore. It's all a bunch of junk.
the Yeah, my father wanted to buy one of those, but my mother convinced him out of it. The
they are quite dangerous.
This is actually
They're sort of
something.
dangerous. They're actually not that dangerous if you use them appropriately. But yeah, if you like put
I
your
mean, they're
finger
just
in the blade.
they're basically just electric mandolins.
Yeah, that's all they are. They're electromandolins. That's exactly it.
The but no, the reason my mother managed to convince my father not to buy one is that there wasn't enough space, and it would be too big for the justifiable use of it.
That is
And
the
like
biggest problem.
that is a very fair point. The He had a very, very clever idea, which was because of the setup of the kitchen. He hates the way his kitchen is set up. I'm not going to give you the whole spiel, but it's set up in a way that it's weird. You'd see there and you'd go, wow, that's weird. But he got one of those induction hot plates, and he put it right next to the sink for preparing pasta and
Yeah,
stews and
Those
all of
things
that.
actually are really useful.
But yeah, and it's the sort of thing which is like, I despise induction products, and that's like one of the only justifiable uses of those, I think.
I mean, induction products, just generally, if you're cooking in pots and pans, they just work better
Yeah, but I mean,
than
I'm
than other electric
yeah,
items, I should say.
better than other electric. I do not think they're better than gas. I think gas is
Yeah,
king,
no, no.
and I think people who are trying to go, oh, my efficiency, are coping. They're coping. It's weak. Election, like I don't like coil. Like I think that stuff's kind of blame sauce.
I think it would be kind of cool. Like, so I have like a lame gas stovetop that doesn't get very hot. So I'm not gas, lame electric stovetop that's glass, and
Hmm.
there's some like bonus to having an induction stovetop because, like, for instance, I could easily turn that on, and I don't like right now. I'm cooking all of my food on the back two eyes because the poor kids, like, if they come over there, put their hand on there, I'm like gonna be so mad at myself. So it would be nice to just be able to like slide the stuff, the pot or pan off there and not have to worry about it.
The
Like it's
I
not gonna
mean
remain hot.
yeah, that's the only benefit I see in it. The reason I don't like induction is because it interferes with other electronics.
Oh, interesting.
What that means is that whenever I walk into a room with an induction stovetop on, it hijacks my hearing aids,
Ooh.
and it's like,
Interesting.
and it's terrifyingly loud, and it's coming from inside my ears, and you don't even, I don't think you can imagine how horrible it sounds for something to be coming from the inside of your ears, because you can tell the difference. There's a difference between the noise coming from like the outside and inside of your ear, and it's terrible, and I don't like it. But this is something that I can complain about, and like nobody else can complain about, so I get why they're popular. But just one of those Jerma complaints, you know.
Personally, I like gas stoves because I've had situations where like the power goes out for a couple days, whether it was a snowstorm or some big windstorm, knocked out the local, telephone pole or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you can have a generator, but most of that power is going to go to your fridge and whatever else is like necessary. If you're trying to use a stove, it takes a lot. Whereas if you have a gas stove, well, the gas should still be good, and you can just use a lighter to ignite it instead of your regular old, instead of the electric igniter that's on the stove. And then you can cook food right there.
That's one of the things they're making nowadays with the new nice oven stove combo. It's a gas stove top and an electric oven, and I think that's about the best you can get. The only better feature I can think of is a steam injection electric oven. That's like, that's like very much of an improvement. That's easily fixed. I think electric ovens are superior to gas ovens, but I cannot imagine a gas stovetop being as good as an electric stovetop. Sorry, the other way around. I can't imagine an electric stovetop being as good as a gas stovetop.
No, it's not. It
I was
doesn't
trying to think of
matter.
like the professional Asian cookers with the woks, and they got like a jet torch underneath those things. They go,
The burners,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's what
I don't
really
think you can do
Those
that.
things are nuts.
that's what really kind of shocks me is the induction stovetops really first took off in China, and I'm wondering how you work an induction stovetop with a wok.
I
Oh,
guess they
but
make
see,
it
that's
work.
the thing is induction stove. So you might not like it, Germa, but induction stovetops have a pretty high like BTU. They do put off a ton of heat because it's strictly
Yeah, and
electrical current.
I know how it's working. You
Yeah,
jump in the electricity. I'm wondering how they deal with the curve.
the
There
curve.
is like wok. If you ever use like a wok on a stove, you have to have
Yeah,
a
but
special implement like stove top thing so that it'll sit down and divot, and
but
the
you don't
fire
you
will
don't
wrap around.
actually. Oh, like that. I mean, you could just make a wok with a. I've actually got a wok that works on a stovetop. I mean, it just has a wider, flatter base. It's a wok in all ways except for the base.
Well, that's just kind of a scam. That's not a
It's
real
it's
wok.
literally built for induction. So I mean, but you could
Yeah,
say it's a scam, but then I just gave you the answer. They
yeah,
make
but
a different
what are you gonna
product
do
for it.
with your great grandfather's wok? Huh? Are you gonna flatten it? Are you gonna take a hammer to it and flatten it? You want to destroy
I just put my
heritage?
woks on the grill,
Papa-Llama,
man.
you want to
I got
destroy
that. I got
heritage?
that.
You're a
I just got
moderate,
that big green
Papa-Llama?
egg. I like charcoal under my woks.
I
That's
can't
all
believe
I'm
it. You
saying.
charcoal
Like
a
a
wok?
real
That's
man.
crazy, man.
Actually,
Uh,
For
that
real?
sounds pretty good.
You
Sounds
don't.
pretty tasty.
You don't. You've never done charcoal under a wok.
No, I've never
Here's
done
the question.
Charcoal can put out just as much heat as any gas burner ever could, and it also provides like a wood flavor. I would argue that the wok hay off of a charcoal burner or off a charcoal cook is way better than what you're gonna get off of a regular burner.
I mean,
It's
presumably, yeah, duh, because I don't think woks were invented after gas stoves. I think they came
I
first.
I know, but you were asking like it's crazy. No, it's totally normal. It's great.
Yeah. Have you guys know those frozen pizzas like Jack's?
Oh yeah,
Jack's
yeah.
frozen pizza. You know those taste delicious over charcoal.
Yep,
I mean, I'd
all
hope
pizza
so.
tastes better on a grill. It's amazing. The problem is most grill, like getting a grill that can hold like a constant 600 to 700 degrees.
Oh yeah, no, I don't even worry about that. I just throw it on there and watch it. Like that's what me and my
Pretty
friends did.
great.
We were out on my land. We don't even have a charcoal like pit. It was just like a couple of stones thrown in a circle.
You
And
literally just have fire. I appreciate that.
yeah, and we threw a bag of charcoal down, got it nice and hot, and then like some more stones held the grate up, and then
Yep.
just threw the pizza on there, watched it till the cheese got nice and melty, took it
That
off, and
actually
oh,
sounds
it
baller.
was hot. Had to give it a second to cool down, but man, you had that charcoal smoke in the crust. It was so good.
I just want to say that this is a great example of how we all overcomplicate anything, but like with enough, alcohol or necessity, you could just be like, all right, let's just put the pizza on top of some metal over a literal fire. All right, sounds good.
We were just doing nothing. So it's like, what do you guys want to do? I'm like, well, we got this frozen pizza. Throw it on there.
That's awesome. That's great. That's actually fantastic. I really actually like one of my goals next year is to really get good at or to develop a general skill for being able to cook over an open fire. I really like grilling. I really like
Ooh,
smoking meat and all that, and that's really fun. But the true origin of all that is to light a fire and cook meat over it. And I've watched so many different guys on YouTube, or even with my Kenyan in-laws, like done some stuff like that with them. Like I want to get good at it myself because it's just such a cool skill.
I saw this actually today. It was a it was like a flat pan kind of, but like with a slight, I would say maybe 10-degree bevel. And
Yeah.
one of the things that people would do with it is they would put legs, like a tripod on the bottom, and then they would cook on it over a fire, like a brazier.
Hmm.
And it was the first time I'd seen something where the pan had the leg directly connected to it. Normally you'd think of like a little TP configuration with stuff hanging, or the classic
Yeah,
two
yeah,
poles.
tripod.
Yeah, and then the two poles and the
Huh.
like pig on a stick, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
want to
pretty
do a
interesting.
rotisserie chicken at some point.
Mm.
The hardest part is if you don't have a digital motor, you have to just sit there and rotate the dadgum thing the whole time, which I have done once and never again. Then I got a motor. The motor is so that you and your buddies don't have to like sit there and take turns rotating the thing.
I was thinking of getting like some sort of pulley system and a long kite string or something, and then just have that like ready to roll, and maybe like have it timed or something, a couple hours. I don't know. This is all hypothetical.
I mean,
Never done
you
it
really
before.
could. That you would just have to have like enough string.
We have it on a kite string because were we flying kites? Yeah, I think we were flying kites, and we got one really high up. It was
Yeah.
kind of silly, and then it
Back in
got
the
caught in
day,
the
what you
tree.
would do is you'd like rotate it a quarter, wait a bit, rotate it a quarter again. But like nowadays, we've got all the fancy tools, so just the chicken like completely rotates and all the time, and at a constant rate. The rotisserie chicken is a great piece of meat, by the way. It's phenomenal. I want to get like a camping Dutch oven and get good at making random things over a campfire. In fact, so we have young kids, so I stated that before I state this. We rented like a cabin out at one of the state parks, so I'm excited to do that, next year, and then hopefully a few more times after that. And so I'll have that Dutch oven, and I'll be able to do a few things in it.
You know
Just
what
some easy.
was really good for me when I was growing up and I was in the scouts? There was a guy who did it was like a berry cobbler in the Dutch oven. It
Nice.
was so good, but like I've never been good with rich food. Like this was really rich, and I was eating it, and I had like a serving of that, and then there was also cherry cobbler that he made in a separate pot. So it was the best cobbler I've had in my life. And I always tell people about that whenever Dutch ovens get mentioned or like cooking outside
Yeah.
camping. And now, mind you, I was like probably like 12 or something in the Scouts when this happened. And I was sharing, you guys share a tent in the Scouts or whatever, sharing with my friend. And like middle of the night, I just like threw up outside
Oh no. Oh
outside
no.
the front of the tent because it's just that like filling and
I mean,
everything.
you did
I
need a
couldn't
lot of
handle it.
sugar.
And
Right.
my friend woke up and he was like, "Did you throw up?" And I'm like, "No, that must have been a squirrel or something."
This is
Holy
squirrels.
thing.
Looking.
And it became a joke between us for a while. I was like, "Oh yeah, the squirrel's throwing up everywhere. This guy really got something in his calf that's making it water."
Well, I believe that is a good story to end on because our producer, Riles, one of the admins, he is telling us we might need to start wrapping up. We have been doing this for
Okay,
a
yeah.
while.
We're
I got
almost.
the oil pan up. Just got to top off the oil, so I'm pretty much done my project. So yeah, it's a good place to stop.
Well,
Nice.
been great having you on, Bear. This one, I'm not sure how much editing we'll have to go through. Not as much as the last episode, I hope. But this may be one of the longer episodes, and it'd be pretty fun to have you back on sometime in the future.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
dude,
was a blast.
this is great to have you be on here finally. Like ever since the server I found out about the podcast, I'm like, man, that'd be crazy to get up on there. And then I finally did it. So thank you guys for inviting me. I don't know, I forget how you guys end this. I don't want to kind of take over the ending.
Well, you normally go about it in a pretty simple way. I've been Jerma.
And I'm PapaLlama.
And I was Bears.
Good night.
Good day.
G'day all, just giving a little editor's addendum here. We forgot to cover it in the podcast itself, but Bears wanted us to bring up and mention his 2 contests running in the Halloween thread, his best jack-o'-lantern contest and his biggest pumpkin contest. Make sure you guys check that out and get involved if you're interested. Alright, g'day and see you around.